Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 46 of the overnight free recaps for Big Brother season 27. A good Saturday to all of y'all. Saturday means HOH on Thursday. We had nominations yesterday. We get Veto today, so a busy time of the week. And I'm here to talk all about it. All right, first of all, as a bit of a getting up to speed, Vince is the HOH. He won the wall competition. We now have our three nominations for the week as well. He made the nominations yesterday. And if you haven't already heard, the nominations are Kelly, Mickey, and Ava. Yeah, we got three women on the block. Of course, there's only three guys on the block, and one of them's an HOH. So, yeah, we got three ladies on the block. Kelly's been up there before. Mickey's been up there before. Ava, welcome to the club. Actually, Mickey mentions that as much as she complained that Kelly had said that to Mickey when she was on the block, and how dare she say that to me? When Ava comes in, that's exactly what Mickey says to her. Welcome to the club. Well, welcome to the club, indeed. But I think Ava will probably be okay this week. But again, nominations are Kelly and Mickey and Ava. So let's think about Vince's situation real quick before we get into the feeds and kind of how these picks were made. He's part of the Judges Alliance, which consists of him and Rachel and Morgan and Ashley and Will. So assume those folks may be off the block, right? But he's also theoretically, at least until he voted out Riley, theoretically with the group on the other side of the house, which consists of Keanu, Kelly, Lauren, and Kat, trying to work with both sides of the group. Even though he voted out Riley, he's got a plan we'll talk about to try to explain that away. So still trying to do damage control. So take people from both those two groups, knock them out for consideration. And who do you have left? Mickey and Ava, the only two that aren't in either one of those group. So it seems like those would be the easiest pick for someone who still wants to play all sides of the house. And of course, Vince still wants to play all sides of the house. I said yesterday I thought it was time to declare some loyalties. Vince is feeling like he can go a little bit longer without having to declare for either side. So Mickey and Ava make obvious choices since they're not part of either one of those two groups. Obviously, Mickey being the target, Ava being the pawn in that choice or that group. The harder decision for him to make yesterday, I think, was the third choice. Who goes up as the third nom? Ended up being Kelly. Personally, I think Kat may have been a better choice, but again, Vince feels like he can smooth things over with Kat. We'll see. We'll talk about it. And we've also got Kelly and Keanu being tight, and Vince wanting to be tight with Keanu supposedly. So anyway, Kelly ended up being the third choice because you had to take someone from one of those two groups. The thing is, before picking Kelly, before making her the nom, he had considered Ashley and Rachel as other choices. Keanu was pushing hard for Rachel to go on the block. Man, Keanu and Rachel, just oil and vinegar, hot and cold, the way these two work together. But Keanu had been pushing hard for Rachel. I think Vince made a bit of a mistake by not that he considered Rachel. It seems like he was very strongly considering Rachel, but the number of people that he mentioned possibly Rachel going up as a nomination. And I'm thinking specifically Will. He had mentioned it to Will. Will kind of shut it down. At one point, Vince said, "Hey, I'm just throwing out scenarios. Please don't tell Rachel I said that, Will." Once it's spoken, it doesn't ever get pulled back. I'm a little worried that if it gets back to Rachel, that Vince was looking at her as a choice, that may sour their relationship. I think Rachel's suspicious of Vince anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter. But anyway, he considered Rachel and Ashley, but eventually ended up going with Kelly for this third pick. Now, the other thing, too, not just Rachel hearing, if I'm Will and I'm hearing Vince talking about putting up someone who's part of the Judges Alliance, if I'm Will, I'm not going to necessarily think that Vince is treating that alliance so seriously. If yet again we've got someone who's willing to put up an ally on the block, that would make me a little hesitant if I was Will. We'll see how that all plays out. All right, let's pick up after the. Well, first of all, one more thing before we talk about the feeds. I did see the conversation. Vince trying to get Mickey a bit of a heads up, saying, "Look, just so you know, your name came up, and it seems like a lot of people are saying you had influence over me going on the block and some of the stuff. You've got a lot of power in the house, and I need to let you know that." Mickey at one point says, "Look, if I wanted you gone, you would be gone." It's a tough way to say that you don't have a lot of power in the house by saying that, but She tried to say, whoever said that I was influencing any of those picks or you going up here, they're crazy. They're liars. It's not true. Who said it? Vince wouldn't say, but he did try to give her a little bit of a heads up. Not sure if Mickey took it so well or picked up. Well, she knew there was a risk. But I think Mickey may have thought she'd convinced Vince otherwise based on how she responded after the nominations, which we need to talk about. So let's pick up after the nomination ceremony, which happened. Oh, it wrapped up around 5 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. So we got all evening into the late night for a lot of discussions to take place. All right, we'll start off with Vince talking to Kat and Kelly, saying he did not want to put up Rachel as an original nomination. Hint, hint, suggesting around that maybe Rachel could be an opportunity for a backdoor renom situation. So that's kind of how he's spinning it with Kat and Kelly, that, hey, just because Rachel's not up right now doesn't mean that she isn't still my target. He's telling him, in fact, he said, I didn't want Rachel playing Veto. That's not what I want her doing. So just so you know, just because she's not up there doesn't mean that she may not eventually be up there. He's saying that his target this week, in fact, is Mickey or Rachel. That's who I want gone, Mickey or Rachel, guys. He's saying if for some reason I couldn't get those two out, Rachel wins a veto, pulls Mickey off, for example, well, then Ashley's going up. So no matter what, Kat, Kelly, y'all are not my targets. You're not my renom. Y'all are good this week. It's Rachel and Mickey who I want out the door. How do you do damage control based on the fact that he voted out Riley last week? Well, he's got an idea that he is presenting to Kat and Kelly. He's saying, look, I got tricked into voting out Riley last week. I didn't want to do it. You know me and Riley, we were tight. I did not want to vote Riley out, but I got tricked by that old dastardly Mickey and Rachel. Those guys, they pulled one over on me. He's saying they both said that Ava and Mickey had Riley's vote to stay, that Riley was staying. There wasn't any question he was going to stay. And they had begged me to give a sympathy vote to Morgan so it didn't look so bad and Morgan wouldn't be so upset. I thought Riley was staying, guys. That's the only reason I did it. They said that because I live in LA and Morgan lives in LA and we're the only two locals and it would be a way for me to stay friends later. They tricked me into giving her a sympathy vote. I had no clue that Riley was going to go home. If I'm Kat or Kelly, I say, well, why didn't one of them give the sympathy vote? And you could just, you said it was you or something. Whatever. But that's the position he's taking, is that I wanted Riley to stay. I would have voted him to stay, but I was told he was safe. And I was just trying to be sympathetic to Morgan. I'm not sure Kat and Kelly are believing it, but that's what he's telling our two ladies here. All right, we've got Mickey and Rachel and Ashley and Ava talking. They're all, at least with each other, agreeing that Kelly is the one who needs to go home this week. I'm not sure when Mickey is out the door that the other three will necessarily agree with that. But while Mickey's in there, oh, absolutely. Kelly's the one who has to go this week. That's what we need to make happen. Mickey is complaining about Morgan. She's saying, Morgan is close to Vince. They're tight with each other. And yet somehow she didn't have more influence to make sure that I stayed off the block, that Morgan supposedly didn't even know who the nominees were before the nominations were made. And she's supposed to be tight with Vince. Mickey definitely questioning Morgan and where her loyalties lie at this point in time. All right, Mickey is later telling Ashley that if Ava wins veto, then I'm going to get Ava to use a veto on me, because Ava knows she's not going anywhere. We all know Ava's a pawn. She's not going to go anywhere. So if Ava wins it, I'm going to get her to give it to me to protect me. That's what we need to be done. And I think Ashley at one point says, I don't think she'll do that. I don't think she'll do it either. There's no way she'll do it. But Mickey very confident in her ability to get other people to use a veto on her. We'll talk about that some more. A few other people talk about that also. All right, we've got Rachel and Keanu talking. Keanu is saying that he thinks that Kelly going home is a worst case situation for the two of them. But he's also saying, look, Kelly's an asset for me. I mean, Rachel, I want Kelly to stick around, but not at the expense of you. So if Kelly coming off the block means you go up on the block, well, she's an asset, but she's not that much of an asset to me. I don't want that to happen. Keanu is saying that his relationship with Vince is what kept Rachel off the block. So he's taking credit for her not being on the block right now. But he is worried that if Kelly and Mickey both came off, if Kelly won the veto competition and Mickey won the blockbuster, for example, and Rachel went up as a renom, that Rachel could go home. And Rachel's saying, I'm going home against Mickey or Kelly, or I think she even Ava. Rachel's feeling like if she goes on the block, she is going home. So don't be thinking any tricky stuff, Keanu, that I'm going to go up, but I'm safe. Don't be thinking any of that. She didn't say that, but I think that's what she's hinting around at. But yeah, Keanu's saying, look, you would have been on the block right now if it wasn't for me in my gameplay taking place. All right, we've got Morgan and Ashley and Will talking a little bit. Morgan is saying that the veto has to be used. She really thinks the veto needs to be used this week, because then if it is used, then at that point, Vince would renominate Rachel and get her on the block. Yet another person who's part of the Judges Alliance who maybe isn't as sold in with the other members as you would like to think that's the case. Because she's saying, yeah, we got to get the veto used so that Rachel can go up as a renom. Ashley is suggesting that, hey, Rachel may be on our side. She's certainly on my side. So maybe instead of the renom being Rachel, why not Kat? We know Kat could be coming after us. Let's make Kat the renom instead. So Ashley is suggesting that. Morgan is suggesting that Mickey maybe needs to win the veto herself. She said she shouldn't be counting on one of us to win the veto and use it on her, because that could create another set of issues and chaos. And basically Morgan may not want to use a veto on Mickey. So Morgan is saying, it really needs to be Mickey winning this veto, Mickey pulling herself off, and then Rachel can go up. She should not be counting on us to win and pull Mickey off the block. They're all complaining about Mickey's gameplay, about how cocky she is, about her control of the house and manipulating people and everything else. So just another kind of Mickey gripe session that this devolves into. All right, we've got Vince and Mickey talking a little bit. Vince warned her ahead of time. He tried to warn her ahead of time, but now Mickey is officially a nominee, and she is not happy at all, and she wants to talk to Vince about it. Mickey is saying, look, I had multiple opportunities to get you out, and I didn't. If I'm Vince, that may not be the best explanation to me that I control your fate in this game, Mickey, so why would you not protect me? Well, if you have that much power, maybe I don't want you controlling my fate, Mickey. But she's saying she's had multiple opportunities to get him out. She hasn't done it. She thought that the two of them had a partnership based on trust, and obviously that's not the case. She's saying, my mistake was I trusted Morgan too much when Morgan said that you were trustworthy, Vince. God, gullible me. I thought I could trust you, Vince. I thought I could trust Morgan when she said that. Obviously not. She's saying two of the people I wanted to work the closest with, Ava and y'all both put me in the block. Obviously my game is just complete garbage. That I'm that trusting that I would let that happen over and over again. Vince is starting to act all sorry about it and saying, oh, I thought, people were saying that you influenced this whole deal over me going on the block, and they were making you out to be the mastermind, but oh my gosh, I've been misled. I've been betrayed by the people who told me that. I'm so sorry, Mickey. I'm so sorry I put you up. It's not because you and I have a beef. It's because I was just misled by other people. That's all it is, Mickey. I'm sorry I put you up. Yeah, I don't buy any of it, but that's what he's telling Mickey. How terrible he feels that he was just misled, being told that Mickey was targeting him, and therefore, why wouldn't I go after you? And she's saying, man, no, no one's, I was not going after you, Mickey, Vince. It wasn't me. You made a mistake. And Vince, I'm so sorry. How can we fix this? So yeah, they have the whole talk. I think maybe Mickey at the end thinks that she sold Vince on the error of his ways. Yeah, she'd sell him on anything. All right, we've got Rachel and Keanu and Ashley talking. Rachel's asking if Keanu, a little worried. She says, look, Keanu, if you get picked to play in the veto and you want it, would you pull Kelly off? I know y'all are close. Obviously, Rachel's concerned about being a renom. Would you use the veto if you want it? And he says, well, it depends on who the renom would be. I'd have to talk to Vince and see what the renom situation would be. And Rachel's warning him, saying, well, just because Vince tells you one thing about who he'd put up as a renom doesn't mean that that's actually who he'd put up. So just because he tells you it may be Kat or someone else doesn't mean that necessarily is going to be the case. So Rachel definitely worried about what happens if someone wins this veto competition today. All right, we've got Ava and Lauren talking a little bit. Ava, for the most part, just saying, you know what, if I go home, I'll just see my boyfriend that much faster. Whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Ava's saying, but she's also trying to cover her bases a little bit. She said, man, Lauren, all of my decisions have been based on info and opinions from old crazy Mickey. Why did I ever trust Mickey? As it's just wild as her gameplay is, but everything I did, HOH, everything else, I've used information, I've used opinions, I've used suggestions from Mickey, and now my game is where it is because of that. So definitely throwing Mickey under the bus a little bit, but I think this is Ava doing a little damage control with Lauren, of kind of hinting around that, hey, yeah, I did vote out Riley, but it's just because of Mickey, and throwing all this bad information to me instead. Lauren at one point says something about, oh, I did see Rachel saying, you've got to do it, Ava. You've got to do it. Talking about voting out Riley. And so Ava's basically just saying, yeah, I just got misled. A lot of people being misled this week. All right. We've got Mickey and Morgan having a conversation. I'll cover the crux of as best I can. Mickey starts off by basically saying, I'm not above saying I'm sorry when it's merited. And she's kind of hinting around, apologizing without really straight up saying I'm sorry, but definitely suggesting that she was wrong to yell at Morgan. Apparently, after the nomination ceremony, she had a few choice words for Morgan. And so she's saying, I'm not above saying I'm sorry. I did yell at you after the thing, and that was not fortunate. She's saying that she has trusted Morgan since day number one inside this house. But she's complaining still. She's complaining about Morgan seemingly being more worried about Vince and Zach a couple of weeks ago. She's saying, yeah, you were all worried about those two, but you couldn't even come tell me that I was being targeted, that I was a potential nomination. Suddenly, you seem to be with those guys and not with me. And so as much as I've trusted you, Morgan, just, I don't feel like I'm getting it back in return. Morgan is saying that she had never heard that Mickey supposedly had told Riley ahead of time that she was going to be voting for Morgan to stay. She's saying, I thought you were keeping Riley in the vote. I really thought you were going to keep Riley and send me out the door, Mickey. So, I didn't think I had the trust with you that you obviously think you had with me, perhaps. She says she never heard that. Mickey is saying that she doesn't think, I'm not above saying I'm sorry, but at the same time, Morgan, I also don't think that Vince decided these nominations on his own. I think he had some other people influencing the decisions. And she said, I'm a little worried, Morgan, that your number one of Vince is that, or let me. I'm a little bit worried that my number one, who is you, Morgan, is also Vince's number one. And how does that pan out in terms of relationships and protecting everyone and all of that? So they go back and forth. Eventually, they kind of like, the feet's cut for a little while, but eventually they kind of make up without really making up. Nothing's settled between these two. All right, we've got Morgan asking Vince, just straight up. She said, Mar, are you planning to backdoor Rachel if the veto is used? And Vince is saying, look, I said I would, kind of suggested it to Kat, but I'm just trying to save face with her. What I'm going to do. Morgan is suggesting that maybe that's not something that Vince needs to be doing. She's saying maybe let Kat take that shot instead of you. So we heard earlier her saying, let's get the veto used, get Rachel on the block. Well, now she's telling Vince, maybe don't use it. Maybe let Kat do it. Is this Morgan trying to make sure that the people stay on the block who stay on the block, with the idea that maybe it's time for Mickey to go home? As much as we know Morgan maybe want Rachel out, she may be just as fed up and ready for Mickey to head out the door as well, based on what she's telling Vince right here. Because she's saying, hey, let Kat do the dirty work. You don't need to be putting Rachel up right now. Morgan is saying that Mickey influenced, throwing that Mickey under the bus just a little bit more as well. She's saying, look, just so you know, Mickey was behind talking to Ava, and she pretty much influenced Ava to put you up on the block. Just as an FYI, yeah, Ava was HOH, but you know how controlling Mickey is here. Vince is saying, they're talking about Rachel. Vince is saying, well, Rachel, I kind of put her a little bit of a test this week. He said, if Rachel plays Veto and wins it, and she pulls off Mickey, suggesting that she's tighter with Mickey than she's letting on. He said, if she does that, I'm putting up Ashley. I'm putting up her best friend Ashley instead. So Rachel did one of those FAFOs to Lauren. If you pull Vincent off, then Riley is going to go up. Now Vince is suggesting the same thing, that hey, if Rachel wants to pull off Mickey, I'm putting up Ashley in her place. All right, we've got Ashley and Mickey talking a little bit. Ashley is saying that Mickey needs to smooth things over with Morgan after yelling at her. They may have had these conversations, but this may have been before the two of them talked. But Ashley's saying, y'all need to work this stuff out. Mickey is saying, look, I cannot be on the block. It's just that simple. I can't be on the block. I have to win Veto, or at least I need the veto to be used on me. She said, even if that means Ava winning and giving it to me, but I cannot be on the block come Thursday. I'm not going to accept that. Question to all of y'all. Who is playing the more delusional game of Big Brother? Mickey or Keanu? I feel like the balances are starting to shift a little more in Mickey's favor at this point. Maybe it's just this season of Big Brother 27 that people assume that allies can go on the block, that vetoes can be used not to save yourself, but to save someone else, that it's okay to volunteer to go on the block over and over again. Crazy world. We need to bring back Janky, because this is a perfect Janky world right now going on. But yeah, Mickey again is saying that she does not need to go on the block, that she will get Ava to use a veto if Ava was to win it. All right, Morgan is complaining to Will a little bit about Mickey. She's complaining that Mickey, I'm sorry. Mickey complaining to Will. She's saying, look, when Morgan's life was on the line, I was fighting for her. I was doing everything I could to protect Morgan. Now Morgan should be helping me, and I'm just not sure that's necessarily the case. Will's not saying a whole lot. Smart, Will. Smart decision not to get pulled into this battle. All right, Mickey is telling Kat that Mickey's talking to Kat about the Riley vote on Thursday. She's saying, look, I knew Riley didn't have the votes to stay, and I wanted to be on the right side of the house. That's the only reason I voted against him, because I knew he didn't have the votes to stay, or at least I thought he didn't have the votes to stay, and I was just trying to watch out for my game. If I thought he was going to be safe, obviously I would have voted to save Riley. Well, wasn't it a 5-4 vote? That Mickey, just like anyone else, could have been the swing vote, but she's saying, I knew he didn't have the votes. I was just trying to protect my game by going with the house. And Mickey follows that up by saying, look, I thought he only had 3 votes. I figured you and probably Lauren, and I thought he only had 3 votes to stay in the house, so my vote didn't really matter, and so I was just trying to protect my game. Obviously, I would have saved Riley over Morgan if it came down to it, but someone misled me. Again, someone misleading someone else in this house this week. All right, we got Kat and Kelly talking. Kat and Kelly are agreeing that they want Rachel to be the first member of the jury, not because it's some strategic move on their part of who they want in jury, who they don't want in jury. No, nothing that fancy. This is just pure vindictiveness, and I get where they're coming from. They're saying they just want Rachel in jury first, just so that she's alone in the jury house first. And I get where they're coming from. I truly do. So forget the gameplay. We just want her to have to go to that jury house and hang out all by her lonesome for a while. All right, we've got Morgan and Will and Mickey talking a little bit. Morgan is thinking that Keanu would be a good renom this week. So she's mentioned Rachel before. She's mentioned Vince not using it at all, theoretically. Now she's saying, Keanu would be perfect to go up as a renom this week. She's worried, though, that Keanu and Lauren and Kat have all been hanging out with Vince a whole lot since he won HOH. Having said that, Morgan's been spending a lot of time with Vince as well, but she is worried. She'd love to see Keanu in the block, but worried a little bit about the relationship that Vince has with the other side of the house. Vince is telling Lauren that he had told Rachel if she wins and uses a veto, her best friend is going up. So again, he's kind of making the threat to her that Rachel had made to Lauren earlier in the week. He's asking Lauren to maybe talk to Kelly. Hey, can you, I put Kelly in the block. Could you possibly talk to Kelly, Lauren, and just help smooth things over? Maybe make it a little bit better with me, with Kelly. Because right now, I'm sure I'm not her favorite person in the house. So he's asking Lauren to do a little campaigning, pitching to Kelly at this point. Mickey is asking, comes in, and actually, I can't remember who she broke up. I think Lauren maybe was up there. I think this was a conversation with Lauren. Mickey comes up and says, "Hey, can a block mate talk to the HOH holder this week?" So everyone fighting for Vince's time right now. So Mickey's wanting to talk to Vince. Mickey is saying that she's got others in this house that will gun for the veto to save her. Who? Who? Who wants to win the veto and pull Mickey off the block? Now, I know she's got plenty of ideas, Ava and others that may do it, but in reality, who do we see winning veto and pulling Mickey off the block? I see those numbers as very limited, if there's any there at all. And even the people are picked. If Morgan is picked to play in the veto competition, is Morgan going to be playing hardcore to win, or is she perfectly happy to maybe let someone else win this thing? It's going to be an interesting veto competition, I dare say. But Mickey's saying she's got plenty of people who are going to be fighting for her to win the veto, pull her off the block. She's suggesting to Vince that if Lauren wins the veto, that, hey, Lauren could use a veto and pull me off. And then she's hinting that, maybe Rachel could go up instead. She doesn't, I don't remember her saying those words, but certainly saying there's other big targets that could go up at that point, but you got to get me off the block first. And hey, Lauren could be the one to do that, right? Eventually Morgan joins Vince and Mickey. So Morgan doing her own gatekeeping a little bit and making sure that Mickey doesn't have too much time with Vince. So Morgan comes in. They have a long conversation, these three, talking about possible veto picks, who would be good, who would be bad for him to win. And I'm not going to cover all of that just in the interest of time, but obviously I think someone like a Keanu playing and winning would perhaps be difficult and all that, or not the best situation. Morgan thinks that Lauren winning would be the worst possible situation. I agree. I think Lauren winning and having to make another veto decision would be like going to the dentist. Excruciating a few days watching those decisions being made or are not made. Nothing personal about Lauren, but I hope she doesn't win anything ever again, because it just watching her make decisions is incredibly challenging. All right, Vince again acting as though he now believes that him putting up Mickey was just a horrible mistake. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Very much acting as though putting up Mickey was a mistake. They finished up the conversation by all talking about forgiveness and wanting to continue to play together. And Morgan says something about, oh, if I can forgive Ava for putting me on the block, you should be willing to forgive Vince for putting you on the block. And let's just all continue to work together. Yeah, not these three, or at least not Mickey with these other two. All right, we've got Ashley eventually joins the conversation for a little bit. Morgan is upset. Ashley slept for several hours, so she says, I'm just gonna hang with y'all now. So Ashley's joined a little bit. Morgan is upset that Lauren voted against her on Thursday. I get being upset that someone voted, but I also understand why Lauren voted the way she did. Morgan doesn't really care about that. Morgan's upset that Lauren voted against her. Ashley and Morgan are both saying that Lauren needs to go home. They're tired of her being in this house. They're thinking that Kelly easily goes home Thursday if she's still on the block. If she doesn't get pulled off with veto, if she doesn't win the blockbuster, the house should have a consensus of sending Kelly out the door. Kelly versus Mickey could be an interesting vote come Thursday. We'll talk about that more later in one of our future recaps. All right, we got Kat worried. Sometimes the smallest things can just make you so paranoid in this house. Kat is worried. She's talked about it several times throughout the evening. Someone left deodorant on her bed, a 2-pack or a pack of deodorant. I don't know. Someone left a thing of deodorant on her bed. It could easily just be it fell out of someone's bag, it fell off a shelf, whatever. But now Kat is convinced that someone must think that Kat smells and is hinting at deodorant usage and all of that. So hashtag deodorant gate at this point. I don't know, but Kat's worried about it. I can guarantee Kat's going to be wearing massive amounts of deodorant for the next few weeks at least. Mickey tells us, yeah, you smell fine. You smell great. So yeah, it's not, but it doesn't matter. Kat's going to be worried about it. So yeah, Kat's got her own issues right now. All right, we've got Morgan and Vince and Ashley talking. Morgan is calling Mickey a huge target, a resume builder. Hint, hint. Hey, taking Mickey out would be huge for anyone who they actually do it. So Morgan is suggesting that. Morgan is suggesting that, hey, if it comes down to a renom, if you have to do it, maybe Kat could be a renom. Morgan's throwing out a whole lot of people that aren't Morgan, right? Kat could be a renom. So maybe Kat has less worries than Deodorant at this point. They're thinking that there's a good chance, though, that the veto won't be used and Mickey could go home. That, again, there may not be a lot of people really eager to play the veto, to win the veto, to then use the veto. They're telling Vince, both of them, Ashley and Morgan, saying, yeah, your picks were great. Yeah, you really did a good job making picks, and it really makes Mickey a huge target to go home. Now, Lauren has said that she would like to play veto and win it and be the one making the decision. I'm not sure why, as much as she went back and forth last week, but one of the few who actually would like to play it and win it this week. They think there's a good chance that Mickey could go home. The veto won't be used. Morgan is also suggesting, though, that Keanu, if he does play in the veto, if he got picked, kind of hinting to Vince that, hey, if house guest choice was used and maybe you picked Keanu or whatever, Keanu could pull off Kelly. He'd probably do that if he won, and then Rachel could go on the blocks. So again, I'm bouncing all over the place. Keanu eventually joins soon after that, so they stop that particular conversation. Just a lot of talk about past HOH seasons. At one point, Keanu compared himself to Taylor. A lot of talk about just the most recent few seasons here. Not any game talk, just reminiscing about past seasons that most of them haven't even watched. All right, we've got Morgan and Keanu talking. Morgan is saying that she just found out about all of. She says, Keanu, you were right about Mickey. Now I understand you're right. I'm just now finding out about all the stuff that Mickey did, that she's been behind, that she's been a part of. I'm just now figuring all this out. And Keanu, you were right when you told me to watch out for it all. Yeah, you were absolutely right. She's complaining that she didn't deserve to be attacked by Mickey earlier. I assume that's right after the noms when Mickey yelled at her. Morgan is saying, though, that she wants Rachel up as the renom. If at all possible, just letting Keanu know that she's still eager to get Rachel out the door if that comes into play. They're arguing between the two of them about who goes between Mickey and Kelly. Morgan thinks that Kelly goes home. Keanu thinks Mickey goes home. Again, that could be an interesting Thursday night vote if those are the two on the block. All right, we've got Morgan and Vince finishing this thing up. As much as Morgan complained about other people hanging out with Vince, she certainly made sure she was the last one to talk to Vince in the evening. Morgan is saying that, as far as Kelly goes, I don't really care if Kelly goes home. That's fine with me. And she said, I don't think anyone else is going to care either. So if that's the way it turns out, so be it. We're fine with that. Vince is talking about Mickey saying earlier, he's saying, Mickey talked to you and me and said, oh, the three of us, we'll decide who gets nominated this week and everything else. He's saying she wants to control everything. She wanted to control HOH this week. Maybe she's not so much, but he's mentioning that she just always wants to be in control of everything taking place. Morgan is suggesting that, hey, maybe the Judges Alliance needs to meet and talk about all this stuff, make sure we're all on the same page. So much of what's happens because we didn't communicate. Let's see if we can all get together. Remember, Mickey's not part of the Judges Alliance, so Morgan is saying, yeah, let's all meet together. Vince says, I was hoping we could do it tonight. Well, this is already 3 a.m. or something. It's late. He said, I was hoping we could do it now. And Morgan said, well, let's do it tomorrow before the veto competition. But after the veto picks have been made. And after we know that, then we can have a little conversation, figure out what's going on, and make sure we're all locked in on the same page. So they agree to that. She says goodnight. Everyone in bed by 4 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. And with that in mind, we've had early veto picks for the last few weeks. I've held off recording this, hoping they're going to have the veto picks. They still haven't had them. They have. It looks like right now the Judges Alliance is meeting and having a conversation, but they still don't know who's playing the veto. I can't wait any longer, so I got to get this out the door. So there you have it, guys. So again, Mickey very upset that she's on the block. Kelly, Neva, they'll take it as it goes, but Mickey not happy. We see the walls crumbling around Mickey. Well, we'll see what happens. And Vince trying to do a whole lot of damage control, as Vince always tries to do. And Rachel being a little nervous about her position and realizing there could be a backdoor with her name on it. How much does she truly trust Vince? How much should she trust Vince? We're going to know a lot more once we have the veto competition. We know who's going to be the decision maker on Monday. So we'll talk about that tomorrow morning. Guys, have a fantastic Saturday. I'll be back tomorrow morning to give you an update. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.